Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Today, our topic is how to take notes with Verbum. My name is Carlie, and I am a customer success manager here at Verbum Catholic Study Software, and I'm so grateful to have you with me here today. Before we dive into our topic of the day, I'm going to let you know a little bit about myself and go over a few introductory comments so you know what to expect during our time together today. But I'd also love to get to know a little bit about you as well. If you don't mind, would you drop in the chat for me? This allows me to make sure it's working well for us as well. Your name, and I'd love to know where you're viewing from today, but also let me know what's your primary use of the software. Are you using it for your own personal study? Are you using it for school? Are you in academics of any kind or teaching? Maybe you are a priest and you're using it for homily or research, or you're in faith formation in some capacity, so you're using it for ministry. I'd love to know. If you don't mind dropping that in the chat. This just gives me a little context as well as we get started. So as I mentioned, my name is Carlie, and I live in the Pacific Northwest area with my husband, and I've been with Verbum now for a couple of years. Really grateful to be in this role. But a little bit about my background. So prior to coming to work here, I was in ministry for about 7 years in the Seattle Archdiocese. So I worked at a parish, just one parish for all 7 years. I was blessed to work with children, young adults, and teens during that time. And towards the end, I did family formation. So lots of experience there. It was a really beautiful and blessed season, and really has helped me in this role to be able to hopefully serve you and help you to be able to use the software for whatever purposes you have in front of you. So grateful to have you here with me today as we dive in and go over some basic yet really essential pieces to know. Really, whatever your goals are in the software, knowing how to use the notes tool is truly essential for your study. So I'll take a look and see a little bit more about all of you here in a moment, but I want to let you know a couple things. I want to let you know, first of all, that our webinar duration time is going to be 30 minutes long. So that's about how long it takes me to go through what I've prepared for you today. But I always stick around for questions. So I want to let you know that if you have questions specific to your use of the software, please feel free to drop those into the Q&A section of the webinar. It'd be really helpful for me because we have a larger crew here today, which is wonderful to see. But sometimes the chat can get busy. So drop those questions in the Q&A and I will get to every single one of them at the end of our time together today. On that note, feel free to use the chat as you wish. I love to be able to see, maybe you have ways that you use the tools that I'm sharing today that can help other users. Feel free to drop that in the chat as I'm going through. It will not be a distraction to me. So I'd love for you to be able to do that as well. Next, I'll let you know, at the top of your chat box, you will see a survey there. Would you do me a favor before you leave today? If you have to leave early for any reason before I get to the Q&A or get to the end of the Q&A, you can click that link at any time there at the top of the chat box. It's going to open up a second tab for you. This should allow you to click through the responses and let me know how today's webinar served you. This is a new endeavor that we're doing. We do offer this on the Logos side, but these Verbum webinars are brand new. And so we need to know from you if this was helpful. But also, I will tell you, there is an opportunity in there for you to include any types of topics that you'd like to see me cover in the future. I'd love to know what I can be helpful, what I can prepare to be more helpful to you. So please do complete that survey before you leave. Last but not least, I'll let you know that today's webinar is being recorded. So you'll receive a copy of that recording by email just a few hours after we conclude today. You'll be able to view that recording for up to 30 days after our session concludes. We'll likely have this available in some other capacity beyond that, but just know that that will be available to you to use at any time or to review at any time. Okay, with that, I'm going to take a look at who we have here with us today, and then I'll give you an idea of what you can expect out of the content of today's webinar, and then I'll pull my software up and we will get started. All right, I'm taking a look. Just a glance here. I want to welcome each one of you. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to scroll through just to see the different uses that we have for the software. This is always helpful to me. Just a little context as we get started. I see that we have people who are using it for a variety of things, whether it's teaching and writing, homily prep. So glad to have you all here. Great. Thank you so much for including that. We've got people from all over, someone all the way from Portugal. Wonderful to see you. Excellent. Thank you so much for letting me know all of this. So again, at the end today, if you have questions specific to your uses, feel free. That Q&A section is for you, and we'll take as much time as we need to today to make sure that you get your questions answered. Okay, so as I mentioned, I wanted to let you know what you can expect by the end of today's webinar. So after this webinar, you will be able to create a note in Verbum. But beyond just creating a note, you may know how to do this piece already, but you may not know the importance and all the nuance behind the notes in Verbum. So specifically, the importance of anchoring and tagging your notes and how these will impact visibility and searchability in your notes tool. And finally, you'll also know how to filter, search, and export your notes. So this is what we'll be looking at today. And next week, we'll have a step 2, which I'll share with you here in a little bit more detail about what we'll look at with that. But I'll also share with you how you can sign up for that at the end. So with that, I'm going to pull my software up so we can dive in. I'm also going to turn my camera off just for this portion, because it will make the screen a little bit larger for you and hopefully offer a little bit more visibility for you during this portion of the training. But I will turn it back on when we get to Q&A at the end, but I want to let you know that I do turn it off for this portion just for your best experience. All right, so today we again are diving into the notes tool. How to take notes in Verbum is our goal today. I am going to walk you through a personal practice, or I should say a personal example, not practice, that I utilized the notes tool for almost a year ago now. At the time, I was preparing to get married, and so my fiance and I at the time were discerning which readings are we going to have at our Mass. Which readings do we want for our first reading, second reading, gospel? And this is a fairly simple example of utilizing notes, but it will show you each aspect of the note and maybe perhaps why you might use each of those tools. So I'm going to walk you through that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Bible to start. And just know that you can take notes in any resource at all within your, with any resource within Verbum. I'm going to also open up my notes tool. Here on the left, you'll find your notes. If you've never used them before, under the tool section, you can go ahead and click that and just open up your notes. You will see here, I see a note in the chat here. Somebody's saying they're getting delayed audio. Let me know if you are having any issues with that as well. You may need to leave and come back in sometimes, just depending on the browser that you're using. Try a different browser as well. If anyone else is having issues, let me know. I want to make sure that this is not everyone who's having an issue. Okay, so I have my notes tool up here. Let's do a quick tour of our notes tool just so you have an idea of this. So you'll see here in this section here, you'll notice that these are all of my notes that I've created here in this section. And on the left, I have my filters. We're going to take a look more at filters later on, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and close my filters. So you'll notice I can click this panel menu here to close this. This here is what we call our hamburger menu, the 3 lines. This is our side, it'll open and close our sidebar. So if you open yours and you see it like this and you're wondering, where are my filters? Just know you can always click this hamburger menu to turn that back on. So I'm going to go ahead and hide them for now. And so now I just have all of my previous notes here, and I'm going to walk you through this process. So as I was discerning those readings, what I would do as we were making those considerations is, as we had one that we were thinking about, I would navigate to that passage in my Bible. So one of the options we had was John 15, 9 through 12. This is one that we were considering. So I would go ahead and type that into my Bible here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a note. I'm going to walk you through how to create a note on this. So to do that, I would just select the text. So here, John 15, 9 through 12. Again, this is one of the gospel readings that we were considering. Now I can add a note to this section in a variety of ways. I can click the little notepad here on my context menu that pops up. I can also click New Note here on my Notes tool. For now, I'm going to go ahead and click this note on my context menu and show you how this works. So here now we have our note open. Here is our new note. If you ever want additional room for your note, you can click this little arrow menu here, or at the top of the menu to expand that note. This gives you a lot of space. I recommend this if you're working and you're typing within the note and you're planning on taking extensive notes. Go ahead and expand that. You can always go back just by clicking the arrows here again. Okay, so we've created a new note, and now we're going to walk through 3 aspects of the note that are important. We're going to talk about editing the actual content of the note. We're going to talk about anchoring, and we're going to talk about tags. Let's start with anchoring, because I tend to spend the most time on this one because it may seem inconsequential. However, it is truly an important aspect of the note in terms of visibility. So notice here, this is the section that you'll see where it's anchored. Currently, it's anchored here on my ESV/CE. This is my top prioritized Bible here. I'm going to show you, if I open up a second copy of the Bible here behind, I'm going to open up a second copy. Let's open up the RSV here. You'll notice it's opened up to the same place here, John 15, 9. Notice there's no note here on this version of my Bible. This is because, of course, I created the note in my ESV/CE. You'll notice the little arrows here indicate the note, since this is the icon that I've used. I'll show you how you can edit that here in a moment if you wish to. But you're not seeing it here on my RSV. Now, that may be okay with you. Perhaps either you just use one copy of the Bible and you don't care that it's not visible on the others. But the power of Verbum is that if you want it to be visible on all of your copies of the Bible, no matter which version you open up, you can ensure that through anchoring. Now, there's 2 options. One, you can use visual filters to make it visible, but this is a little bit limited. Let me show you this first. So let's navigate back over to our RSV here. Now, here at the top of our resource, we have this little button here. It's the 3 dots. These are our visual filters. Now, visual filters, we won't go into all of the details on visual filters today. We're really, truly just going to focus on 2 sections of the visual filter, and these have to do with notes and highlights. So you'll notice here at the top, there's 2 sections that relate to notes and highlights, and then notes and highlights corresponding. Now, this second section is the one we're going to look at here right now. If I toggle this on here, and check this box, you'll notice now that you will see my note that I created on my ESV/CE visible here on my RSV. And as I hover over it, it indicates that it's a corresponding annotation from the ESV/CE. Namely, that I'm able to now see this note from a different version because I turned my visual filters on for corresponding resources. So since these 2 resources are a corresponding resource, I am able to see it. So you can always use visual filters if you don't want to worry about anchoring. But I'll tell you 2 things. There's 2 limitations with visual filters. One is that this is only going to work for interlinear versions of the Bible. So any non-interlinear versions, you will not see this since it's not a corresponding resource. And 2, you do have to remember to turn those visual filters on and off. So if this is your preference, you want to make it anchor it to a certain copy, you can absolutely use those visual filters for this purpose. However, what I want to walk you through is how to create a note on any version of the Bible and have it actually anchored to the reference instead of a specific translation. If you add an anchor to your note here and have it to the reference, it's going to be visible on any Bible that you open without having to use visual filters, and also not limited to interlinears. So let's walk through that process. For this moment, I'm going to go ahead and turn off our visual filters for corresponding notes and highlights. So this will give us an opportunity to see how this works. Okay, so here we're back to our note. We're going to click Add Anchor. And I'm going to type in the reference here. So this, again, the reading that we were considering here is John 15, 9 through 12. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and click Done. So now I've anchored it. Now I have two anchors here to the specific copy as well as to this reference. But you'll notice if I navigate over to my RSV or any other version of the Bible, let's open up another version for example. Let's go ahead and open up Dewey Rames here. You'll notice I have this note available to me here. And it's not, as I hover over it, a corresponding resource. It's actually anchored specifically to this reference. So it's going to be visible on any copy of the Bible that I open. So I can go ahead and remove this anchor, and it's anchored strictly to that reference. Now, I want to let you know that this may seem to you as if this is going to take quite a bit of time and also to have to remember to anchor it to the reference and then add the reference. And I totally understand that. So I want to show you a shortcut. The reason I walk you through all of those steps is because I want you to understand the importance of anchoring in terms of visibility on the text when it comes to the notes tool. But let's jump to that shortcut so that you know how to create a note directly to the reference if that is your goal. So to start, let's go ahead and delete this note and let's start over so I can show you that shortcut. To delete any note, you can always just go to the panel menu here and just select delete this note, and you'll notice that it's gone. So let's start over. We're going to go ahead and select that text again, John 15, 9 through 12. And now we're going to add a note in a slightly different way. So instead of hitting new note or clicking the notepad here on our notes tool, we're actually going to go to the panel menu on our context menu here. So the three little dots, we call this the panel menu or the kebab menu. You can see it looks a little bit like a kebab here. So we'll click that. And it opens up a lot more options here. The one that we're going to be concerned with today is the reference, because of course we're wanting to add a note to the reference. So we're going to select reference on that context menu and then select add note. Notice when we do this, it anchors it directly to that reference, so we don't have to worry about adding any sort of anchors here. And it's immediately added to the reference. Now it's going to be visible on any copy of the Bible I open, if that's my goal. So again, I know we spend a lot of time on this portion on anchoring, but it is truly so important in terms of visibility on your copies of the Bible. Also note that if you ever wish to add anchors, you can always add more. So if you create a note on a commentary or a different type of resource and you want to add a reference to a particular passage of scripture, you can always just use this plus button here to add an anchor, and you can anchor it to something else. Again, this will make it visible on that reference. So anchors equal visibility. That's what you need to remember. And I also wanted to make sure you knew that shortcut to directly anchor it to the reference if you wish to. Okay, so let's move on from anchoring. If you have any further questions or if it wasn't clear enough, feel free to drop in the Q&A. We'll get to all of those questions at the end of our time together today. Let's talk about the rest of the note. Up here at the top, these are all of our options to edit our note. You'll notice here, this is our icon. You can use different icons for different types of things. I've heard of, there's people who use different colors or different icons to indicate different types of things or different projects. I know we have priests here, and those of you who are using Verbum for your schooling, perhaps you're working on a paper or a homily and you want to create notes, you can switch up your icons dependent on that. That way you can just easily see, this blue cross indicates I'm working on this particular homily paper, etc. So you can decide how you set that up. You'll notice here you could also select like a black cross, for example. This way you'll notice here how it appears now on my Bible. It's a little bit less obtrusive. I can see it if I'd like to, but it's also somewhat hidden as I'm reading through and less of a distraction. So you can use the icons to organize your notes as you wish. This next section here will add highlighting to your notes that you create if you wish to. Generally, for my notes, I don't use highlighting, but you could always use any one of these here. We won't talk in depth about the highlighting tool today, but I'll talk about it a little bit next week. If you're interested in learning more, again, I'll share that at the end. This section here as well on notebooks, I will talk about next week in a future training. Notebooks are super powerful, and I'd love to be able to show those to you next week. So jump in on that webinar then, and we'll go into more detail on those aspects of the notes. This section here will allow you to edit. So you'll notice right here, I can add whatever I'd like to my note. So here I can say this is my gospel wedding option. I can add bullet points, for example. I could say this is our second choice. You can also add images and links. For example, here are images. You can upload your own media. You can also, utilizing this button, you can also search for media and the Faith Life stock. You can use these different, whatever media that you'd like to here. So for example, I can type in wedding. Maybe there's something I want to select here and I'm planning to use it. Granted, I wouldn't use it for my purposes here, but if you are using, for example, our homily builder to create a presentation, and utilizing that for a slide deck, this is also a way that you can create that. And on that note, Homily Builder is a great tool. If you are in ministry of any kind and you're creating slideshows for Bible studies or confirmation classes, etc., it's an awesome tool to use for this, and you can pull from your notebooks, which again we'll talk about next week. So you can add images, you can add links, bullet points, etc. There's a lot that you can do to edit the actual content of the note, and all of these buttons up here at the top will assist you with that. Okay, the last section I want to talk about with regard to an actual individual note is tagging. Now, tagging is available right down here. Tagging is a very underutilized tool within notes, and I really want to give you a good idea of how you can tag to help you out. And basically, it will help you to narrow down or find your notes in the future. We're going to look here in a few moments about how to sort and search and find your notes, but tagging will help you with that because it allows you to add your own sort of organization to your notes. So in this example, when I was selecting options for a wedding, I tagged them appropriately so that I could sort them later. So I would tag this one, for example, as my wedding gospel. You'll notice I have a few tags here I've used: wedding first reading, second reading, gospel. Here I'm going to go ahead and select the gospel. You can also tag it as, like, for example, here I could tag it additionally as my second choice or my first choice, etc. This again allows you to narrow it even further. In other webinars down the road, I will continue to show you some more benefits of tagging, but just briefly, I'll tell you, if you're working on a paper, if you're working on a homily, if you're working on some sort of project where you want to be able to sort and organize those notes, you find a reference within scripture and you planning to use it in the introduction of a particular project, first of all, tag it with the title of the project and then tag it with where you plan to use it: intro, body, argument 1, whatever it is, because it will allow you to further find those notes at the appropriate time. And you will be thanking yourself in the future for that initial organization that you did using tags. So this is a note. These are all the aspects of the notes, the actual note itself, between anchoring, tagging, the icon that you select, and also the content of the note. So let's talk about a few more things that are important to understand with regard to the notes tool. First of all, we're going to jump back to visual filters here for just a moment because I want to show you here under visual filters. Click here. I told you there was 2 sections we'd look at today. We already looked at one, which was notes and highlights corresponding, but let's look at notes and highlights on their own. You'll notice I can check this box. Look what happens to my Bible here. All of my notes and highlights are gone. Now they're not deleted, they're just hidden. Now this can be helpful if you are trying to read a part of scripture. Maybe you have notes and highlights everywhere, but you just want to hide them so you can get a fresh read on a passage. You can feel free to turn notes and highlights easily on and off using that button. Go ahead and turn them back on. Okay, so now we've looked at how to turn our our notes and highlights back on and off. We've looked at the aspect of the actual note. We are going to look next on searching and finding and exporting our notes from Verbum. So let's go ahead here and we're going to go back to our hamburger menu. If you recall at the beginning, I showed you how to click this to open and close the sidebar. We're going to go ahead and do that here. Now you see our notes tool as we initially saw it, again with our filters on the left, our notes here in the middle, and then here's our current note that we're working on. So you can see how it can be really helpful to expand that note if you're working on an individual note, just to give you more room. Now we're going to focus here on the left on our filters. Now filters are huge in terms of finding your notes, but you can also search at the top. So you can search at the top for any keyword within the note, so specifically within the body of the note. So for example, I could type in choice here, and you'll notice that I have a few that I indicated as my first reading, first choice, gospel, second choice. It's in the content of the note there. So this is what it's going to pull up. So you can always search by keyword here in the search bar. Honestly, though, my preference in terms of finding my notes in the future is to utilize tags. So let's look at filters because this will lead us right into our tagging. So on the left here, you'll notice that you can filter by highlights and notes. Today, we only talked about notes, but just know that when you create a highlight on the text, it also creates a note. Sometimes people find that a little bit annoying because they feel like it busies up their notes tool and they can't find the notes that they need when they need them. But also I'll tell you, it's so important to be able to search your highlights. So this is also why they're created and housed here. But you can always filter it down to just see your notes just by clicking this. You'll notice now I'm just seeing my notes here and no highlights are included in this list. You can always see here at the top what you filtered it down to. So notice we're only looking at notes here. And if you ever need to remove that filter, you just click the little X next to it to navigate right back. Notice here at the top, you can also search and find by book. So here is my ESV. I've got almost 150 notes in that particular version of the Bible. I can click that to filter it down just to that resource. I've got my Imitation of Christ here with 6 notes. If I want to filter it down to that, I can. So it's divided by resource here. You can stack these filters as well. So you can filter it down even more by clicking multiple filters at a time. You can filter it by Bible book. So if I just want to see my notes in Genesis, I know I made a note in Genesis, I want to take a look there, I can click that one. You can look at it by reference, and here are our tags. So I'm going to expand this. You can have as many tags as you would like to. So again, tags allow you to narrow it down even more. So here, notice I have one specific tag for wedding gospel. As I click this, you'll notice this pulls up different options specifically for my wedding gospel choices. And the reason I can easily pull all of those together with one click is because I've tagged them. So tagging is huge in terms of being able to find the right notes at the right time because it allows you to have your own organizational system that works for you. As you scroll, you'll also be able to see you can do it by anchor, author, when it was modified and created, etc. So filters are huge in terms of finding your notes again in the future and searching your notes tool, but you can also search there at the top as well. So this is how you find your notes. And then how do you export them? How do you then use them and share them? So again, when I was preparing for marriage, my fiance and I actually lived about an hour away. So we would have to meet in the middle to talk about wedding planning. And I didn't usually like to bring sometimes I wouldn't want to bring my laptop or be on my phone. I wanted to just bring paperwork, had things in a binder. I'm a fairly organized person, so this is how I would handle things. So I oftentimes would like to create my notes in Verbum, but then actually export them and print them. So you can do that with notes. You can go ahead and select multiple. So here, for example, I've narrowed down my wedding gospel options. Maybe I want to select all of these ones to bring with me. So I can select them in multiple ways. I can click, just select one. If I want to select multiple, I can use the shift button to select all of them. I can also use control or command on my keyboard, depending on if I'm using PC or Mac, to select individual ones to then export. So now that I've selected multiple, here you'll notice this little menu pops up. This is so helpful. So you'll notice here on this menu that you can change up a lot of things. You can add anchors to multiple notes at a time. So maybe if you've never realized the details of anchoring or tagging before, but you want to tag multiple at a time, know that you can always add tags to multiple notes at once. If you select them all and have them selected, you can tag them all at one time. But what I want to look here together at the bottom is this print export button. You can go ahead and click this and it will pull all of your notes up into a document here where I can copy it to my clipboard. I can send it to a new Microsoft Word document. I can put it in a PDF document, etc. So I'm able to grab my notes all in one place quickly and easily and get them out of the software and pull them where I need them. So again, this is how you would then share those notes. Okay, last thing I want to show you before we jump to questions today is if you ever accidentally delete something. So you'll notice here, for example, if I delete selected notes on accident, or I just deleted one, there's this trash bin here at the bottom of your screen. You'll notice it's hard to see my mouse, I realize, but or my pointer here, but I'm going to click the trash and open this up. You can see this is the note that we trashed about 15 minutes ago here. You can see all of your notes. They live here until you permanently delete them. And so you can always click on them and select permanently delete or undelete, and it restores it right back to your notes tool if you wish to. And then you hit done at the top here and you'll be able to find that note again. So this is what I wanted to cover today with you, and I will go into any questions that you may have. But keep in mind, again, today was a fairly basic tutorial on the notes tool. However, of course, we learned some important things about anchoring and tagging. And next week, if you're interested, again, I'll drop in the chat here in just a moment, a link that you can join us for some additional webinars. And I'm going to share this with you. Next week, we'll be talking specifically about notebooks. Notebooks are a way that you can collect all your notes into one place. And there are many ways that you can utilize them that you may not even know. So I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. I'm going to pull up a few closing comments for anybody who has to leave before I conclude today. And then I will get to all of your questions. Okay, so as a follow-up, I want to let you know, we are going to be emailing you. If you missed the first part of this, I want to just assure you, you'll get a recording of today's webinar. And I'll also include a link there to other opportunities for training. I've included there in the chat some upcoming webinars that we have available to you. If you wouldn't mind taking that survey for me there at the top of your chat, if you have to leave before we get to all the questions, just click it and take that survey for me. Let me know how today went for you. Again, this is a new endeavor for Verbum. We want to know if it's serving you well. We want to put resources in front of you to help you to learn how to use the software if it's helpful. But your feedback is essential to knowing if that is the case. So let me know in the survey if you would. I assure you, I read every response, and it's a gift to me to hear from you, what I can do better in the future to serve you, but also if today was helpful. That is always really wonderful for me to know as well. If you ever have any questions about your library, or you're interested in adding something, but you want to make sure you get the best price, feel free to save this number I've shared here on the screen. It's 888-918-0768. These are our library specialists. If you tell them you came to my webinar, you will get a discount on upgrading right now. Also, if there's specific resources you're wanting to add, always call and just see if they can offer you a better price. I will tell you, I used to work on that team, and there were so many times that I wished I would have been able to work with customers when they called me after the fact to make sure they either got a better price or at least more for what they were looking at. There's some unique ways to save with Verbum. So feel free to save that number and give them a call if you have any upcoming purchases that you are planning to make. They would be so happy to serve you. So with that, I'm going to take a look and see what questions we have. I can pull my software back up and we can go over those together. If you have to take off, I want to say thanks for being here. It's been such a blessing to connect with each one of you. I'm excited to go back through and read through all of your comments at the beginning to see who we had here with us. I don't take too much time at the beginning just to honor your time, but I like to come back and see who we've had here. So thank you so much for joining me. Okay, I'm jumping to the Q&A right now. Feel free, again, drop questions there, and I'll be happy to answer those. Okay, so Ken asks, he says, when you showed how to use the visual filter to show notes from the other interlinear text. Yeah, no problem. Oh, I'm happy to show you again, Ken. Even though you can rewatch it, it's not hard to show you. So let me just show you here really quick. So on your visual filters here, so at the top of any resource, you'll see these three little dots. These are visual filters. You can click this button and scroll down, and you'll notice there is this little button here for notes and highlights corresponding. You can click this and toggle this on and off. Now, this will allow you to see notes that you have created and anchored them specifically to one particular copy of the Bible, one particular translation. This allows you to see it on other interlinear translations, so other corresponding resources. So again, it's just in the visual filters under notes and highlights corresponding. Okay, next question. All right, Andy says, can you export notes in plain text to format the clipboard rather than to a file? So you can copy it to a clipboard. I'd play around with it, Andy. Here's the thing. Play around with it and see what you find. If there's something that you're running into when you try to export that you can't do, I'm going to share my email. Shoot me an email. I'm happy to see what I can do to troubleshoot for you all, to see what I am able to help with. Again, it's just my first and last name at logos.com. If you're watching this recording, carlie.harkins@logos.com. Feel free to shoot me an email at any time. Always happy to see what I can do to help you troubleshoot. That's what I'm here for. So try copying it to the clipboard. Try the different options. If you're not finding something that works for you, do let me know. And I'll see if there's an option that might work better. Okay. Tom says, any chance that Verbum will offer something like Logos Deep Dive? They offer 10% off Logos 10, plus they add a free book each time, something to request for higher ups, Tom. You do get a discount on Verbum if you call the number I shared. I'm going to pull that back up. So we don't have a free resource involved in this particular webinar. These are customer success webinars, but you do get a discount on Logos 10 by calling the 888-918-0768. So do let them know if you're interested in upgrading to Logos 10, you absolutely will get a discount from that team by letting them know you came to this webinar. So hopefully that helps. Okay, next question. Matthew asks, can you share some ways that researchers use notes when conducting research? This is a great question, Matthew. And I have a webinar specifically coming up on next month. We'll be offering some additional options for specifically organizing your research. But when it comes to using notes for conducting research, if others have ways that they use it, if you're using it for that, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I would recommend, today we were looking at just taking notes in our Bible, but you can do so on any resource. So if you open any resource, like a commentary, any book in your library, you can open it up. My recommendation always, just as best practice, I'm just going to use the Bible since I have that open up here. But as you select and you take a note, is to immediately, um, for example, if you're doing research for a paper or homily, I'm not sure what exactly you're researching for specifically, but to take note immediately in the body of the note of why you took that note. So if you're planning to use it as part of a paper, where you plan to use it in the paper, again, utilizing tagging for organization. But I'm going to have some future webinars that use other tools for specifically for organization. And I think those are really key. Keeping your notes organized, whether you're using notebooks, which we'll talk about next week, or some of the other tools like the favorites tool to create folders to organize. Those are the things that you are really helpful for research. So stay tuned for that because I'm excited to offer some of those webinars coming up. If there's something very specific that you have questions about in the meantime, shoot me an email because I know maybe you have timely things, but that's what I can share with you in this short period of time. But if there's something specific, feel free to let me know. Okay, let's see here. Next question. Maria asks, this was definitely helpful. Thank you. Is there a way to watch the previous webinar on getting started with Verbum? Good question, Maria. Shoot me an email. In fact, let me see if I can grab a link. Let me see if I can grab a link for you first. Let me check. If I'm able to share it with you, I will. And I'm going to take a look and see briefly if I'm able to. So just give me 30 seconds here to take a look. I might need to email it to you. And if that's the case, then you can shoot me an email. Hopefully we'll be offering some of these again, but let me just see if I'm able to get that link for anyone who wants to see the one that I offered last week. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm just grabbing this here. Just give me another second or two and hopefully I'll grab it for you. In the meantime, if you want to, feel free to click that link to the survey. It'll open up a separate tab. You can click through that while you're waiting for me. I promise. Okay. Yep. I grabbed the link here. Okay. I'm putting this in the chat. If anyone's interested. So last week, what Maria is referring to is I did offer a webinar called Getting Started with Verbum. Now, this is very basic. It's for those of you who maybe haven't started using Verbum regularly, you haven't prioritized your resources, gives you a little tour of the dashboard and understanding kind of the different pieces of Verbum, but it is fairly basic. So, but if you want to watch the recording, feel free to check it out. Maybe there's something it can offer for you, but it's a great starting point, especially if you maybe even bought Verbum a couple years ago, but really never used it to its full. I'm hoping that these webinars will really serve you and help you to start using it for whatever your goals are. So check out that link there, Maria. Hopefully that will help you out there. Okay. Patricia asks, deleted notes and notebooks can be seen here in documents. How can I delete files from here? So you should be able to, let me take a look and see what you are looking at. I'm guessing what you're looking at here is in your documents section. But if you've deleted them, they should not be showing up in your documents. Shoot me an email, Patricia, if you're struggling with something, and I'm happy to go over that and take a look at it for you. But once you've deleted it, I would delete it within your notebooks itself, but also in your documents. If you're talking about notebooks here, you can sort it by notebook. And you can right click on any resource or notebook and just click delete like this, and it will delete it from your documents. So hopefully that helps. Again, right click and delete. If it's something else you're looking at, do let me know. All right. I'm going to check in the chat. I think I saw a couple come through the chat and I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, Bob asks, is there a way to automatically include paragraph section numbers such as encyclicals or compendiums when adding a note or a highlight. I've been taking notes on the compendium for CST and have been manually adding them. So, Bob, if you would shoot me a screenshot of what you're exactly saying, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding it so I can offer a few different examples. It's going to take me a little bit of time to do that right now, but there are ways that you can copy links into it. You can also add anchors to a note if that's what you're looking to do. But I also really want to make sure I'm understanding exactly your question. So if you would shoot me a screenshot of it and send me an email, I will be sure to get back to you this week with an answer on that. Again, it's carlie.harkins@logos.com, and I will be sure to get back to you on that. Okay, Paul asks, is there a difference between notes and highlights? I've been using highlights by default when I'm reading the Bible. Great question, Paul. So there is a difference. However, they're both going to appear in the same place, right? They're both going to live here in your notes tool. Highlights and notes will both live here. Now, notes, when you use a highlight, you can easily just quickly highlight a text. We'll look at that a little bit more next week. But the main difference between them is truly just how it appears on the text. When you create a highlight, you can also add to the body of the note for that specific highlight. So the main difference is how they appear, but also notice up here, you can sort them by highlight or note. So depending on how you've input them, it will sort them that way. So if you have added a note to a text, even if you've created a highlight or added a highlight to that particular text, it will always be designated as a note and vice versa. Okay. All right, taking a look here. Great. Thanks, Bob. I'll look for that email. Really happy to help. If anyone has specific questions, feel free to reach out to me on email. Sometimes through these webinars, I want to make sure I'm really fully understanding your questions. So always email me. Okay, Matthew asks, do you know if there's a discount beyond the academic discount I have? So Matthew, depends on what you're looking to add. If it's for upgrading, your academic discount's probably going to be higher than the discount you get for this particular webinar. But if you're looking to add a specific resource, I don't know the details on that. So it's always worth a phone call. They may be able to help you out. They may not. But it just depends on what you're looking to add. There were times when I was on that team that I was able to help beyond that, depending on different discounts. So always call, see what they can do for you. And there's never any obligation, but they're always happy to help see what they're able to offer. And the other thing I'll tell you with that is sometimes if there's like an individual resource you're looking to add for something, there's sometimes that it's included in a larger package that actually ends up being cheaper for you because of what you already own. So it's always worth just asking them, is there any creative ways to get this at a lower price point? They'll do what they can to help you with that. Joe asks, can you reassign from untitled notebook into a specific notebook? Yes, you can, Joe. We'll go in detail on that next week if you're interested in jumping in on that. But briefly, I'll just show you here. If you select multiple notes, like I showed you before, you'll notice here that you can set a notebook on multiple notes. So currently I have no notebook on this, but if I wanted to add it to a notebook, I could do that. So again, we'll talk more about that next week, but just a little preview for you if you want to get started on that now. Martha says a lot of info. Yes, Martha, it's a lot, but also so important to know all these details. Some of them may not be applicable to you. For example, you may not care. Maybe you only use one copy of the Bible, so you don't care about anchoring it to the actual reference. So don't get overwhelmed, and just know that you can always come back and review this again. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me. Verbum is a very powerful tool, but you also, and that you can use for so many different tools and tasks, but you also have to know how to use it in its full capacity to really get some wonderful value out of it. So I hope that you don't feel too overwhelmed by today. And if I can ever serve you, for example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by something and you would like some assistance, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm not seeing other questions. Thank you so much for your positive comments. I love to be able to serve you, and I'm so glad to be able to be here with you. If you would do me a favor, if you haven't done it yet, I'm going to pop up the chat, the survey here for you. It would be truly such a gift to me. Always blesses me when you complete that survey. So I don't want to be annoying and asking again, but also it would truly help me out so much. So I'm going to pop it up here and make it really easy. Again, it'll just open a separate tab for you. You don't need to navigate away from the software, or excuse me, away from the webinar. It'll open up a separate tab. But if you take that for me, it would truly be such a gift. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I see something else come in. Let's take a look. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for the kind words. I was grateful to be here with you today. I look forward to being with you next week. I hope you're here with me next week. If you can't make it, if the time doesn't work, I know it's Thanksgiving week next week, which is hard to believe. You can still register and receive a recording of next week's webinar that you can review for up to 30 days following. So be sure to register either way. But obviously, if you come live, you can ask questions live and we can work through it together. But if not, you can shoot me an email if there's questions that come up as you start to play around with this. But the last thing I just want to tell you is you cannot break the software by messing around with it and starting to build notes. As you saw, they're always deletable, which I love to be able to know that. As a perfectionist myself, I always hesitated to take notes and highlights in my actual hard copies of the Bible because I felt like they were so permanent. But that's not the case with Verbum. You can always delete things, come back, change things. So just know that you can't mess it up, play around with it, and start to really delve in because you will start to see the power of the software. So thanks for being here today. I hope to see you next week. Hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving if you're not with me live next week. But if you are, look forward to seeing you then. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you.